Alright, you guys, so Barcelona and PSG are through to the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League, but believe me when I say this, it was not as simple as it was supposed to be for either of these two teams, and we need to talk about it. Welcome to our coverage of day one of the UEFA Champions League Quarter-Finals second leg. But if you haven't seen my face and you don't know me before, or maybe you've been watching my channel, you've been watching these videos and you have yet to subscribe. Hi guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I am Just Max, and on this channel I talk about football from La Liga to the Prem and of course the UEFA Champions League. If you like stuff like this, please stick around, be my friend, be my homie. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let's get conversing in the comment section because Barcelona were hosted by Dortmund in Germany today. If you remember, the first leg ended in the Montjuic with Barcelona totally dominating Dortmund in a 4-0 victory. Now for Barcelona fans going into the second leg of this UEFA Champions League, it was not as simple as saying we are going to go to Germany and we're going to win, because the ghost of second legs of time past were haunting Barcelona. If you want to remember the games against PSG last season, the game against Liverpool is another reference for how Barcelona have thrown away a big 4-0 lead. The game against Roma is another reference to how Barcelona threw away a big lead from the first leg of the UEFA Champions League. So going into the second match, it was still all to play, and I know that a team like Dortmund with their yellow wall behind them, it was never a good atmosphere to go into. That was why as a Barcelona fan I was excited last week that we were able to get such a big margin to take to Germany. Hansi Flick fielded a team that consisted of Wojtek Szczesny in goal. Wojtek Szczesny up until this match has been unbeaten for Barcelona. It was up to 20 games at this point. Gerard Martin continues to, cover that left flank position until Alejandro Balde is good to come back. Kubasi comes back into the center back position after being rested on the weekend against Leganes. Araujo is his partner in crime today because Inigo Martinez needed to be rested because he was carrying a yellow card. Had Inigo Martinez played in this game and got a yellow card today, he would not have been eligible to play the first leg of the semi-final. So I thought that was a tactical decision from Hansi Flick to substitute Araujo for Inigo Martinez in this game. Jules Koundé reprised his role in the right back position, which he has come to make his own anyway. In midfield, it was a much changed midfield. We did not see Pedri from the start of the game. We did see Gavi though pairing together with Frenkie de Jong, and then we saw a line that consisted of Fermin Lopez, Rafinha, Lamine Yamal and Robert Lewandowski leading the Barcelona attack. Before we even get into the performances, this team 0/10. They put together a very disgraceful performance. They put together a very lackluster performance. They put together a very shameful performance. Let me tell you, they had nothing going for them. Maybe they thought because they had 4 goals ahead of Dortmund, there was just nothing to play for. Whereas Dortmund, they were chasing the game. They had more energy. They had more desire. They just had more will to run. Within the first 10 minutes, I could see the demons of the Liverpool game coming back to haunt me. As a Barcelona fan, this was a trauma-inducing game for me. I was so stressed. I prayed. I was so worried about Barcelona because they could not get into the game. They could not get their passes together. They could not get any ideas together. And immediately, I could identify that a big hole in the midfield was forming because Pedri was not there to control things. Yes, Frenkie de Jong has been masterfully playing well for Barcelona of late, but in that double pivot position, Pedri is just on a class of his own. Now there's something to say that when a lot of Barcelona players look around and don't know what to do with the ball, they often tend to give it to Pedri because Pedri is that kind of player that creates things out of nothing. Not just that, he's also that kind of player that doesn't lose the ball. Barcelona today did not have a hold on the ball. They just kept on losing the ball. Their pockets were picked. every single time that Dortmund was on the ball, it looked like a dangerous attacking situation waiting to happen. It is so bad that within the first half, Dortmund already had up to 10 shots on target, whereas the whole entire first half, Barcelona did not have a shot on target. And I want to say a shot on target, but they didn't really have a shot at all. This was a shameful performance. Now, Girassi ended up scoring a hat-trick against Barcelona. This was a very, very good performance from Dortmund. Unfortunately, much of the damage was already done in the first leg of the match anyway. But Girassi, he did put in a performance. The whole entire Dortmund team, Karim Adeyemi, he had a wonderful performance. He kept on running. Him and Koundé, they were having a night. You know, and I have to be honest with you and say to you, like he had Koundé in a pickle. Like on multiple occasions, he had Koundé in a pickle. The Barcelona backline, they were so very disorganized. I could not believe what I was watching, because you guys know on this channel, it's always going to be Visca Barça. I am a Barcelona fan, so when I'm criticizing my team this hard, you really understand how very, very painful this is for me to do. Like, I could not recognize my team at all. I was like, what is going on here? Like, this is not the team that I am used to seeing, the team that is used to playing free-flowing football. And I think that this game ought to have give Hansi Flick some things to think about, because we are getting into the business end of the season. We cannot afford to play like this, or we will go trophyless, and it will be so hard for us to have all this potential and then not win anything at the end of the season. We just cannot play like this at all. If Dortmund was a much better team than they were, you know, we could have considered at least 6 goals. Yes, Szczesny did give away a penalty, but at the end of the day, he did end up coming up big for Barcelona. Now, I have to talk about Szczesny a little bit. Up until this match, Szczesny has been good. When I saw him give away that penalty, I have to be honest, this is something that we have come to like be expected of Szczesny as a Barcelona player. You know, some days he does wonderful saves and some days he gives away penalties. That's kind of what you get, you know, and I'm okay with that. So I was not too worried about what that penalty, like we had the 4-goal advantage. Okay, fine, no problem. What I was worried about was our inability to get anything going thereafter. Like, I thought that would have been the wake-up call for us to like push forward, try to recover something, but no. Dortmund were just playing. And yes, there was a brief moment where we started to settle down into the game. We started to play a bit more. Frenkie de Jong was starting to dictate the pace, but ultimately I feel like Frenkie de Jong without Pedri in that double pivot position, and this is not to knock on Gavi at all, but Pedri is just class, and Pedri is having himself a season. You know, it's just very difficult to step into that Pedri role and just do it, because he's just class. He's just ahead of everybody else. The only person that I said really impressed me to some level is Fermin Lopez. Fermin Lopez was masterful last week. He was another revelation this week. He was good. But if I were to criticize Fermin Lopez in this game, I would say, Fermin Lopez, what I need from you moving forward is to increase your accuracy in front of goal, because there were moments where Fermin Lopez had a shot on target. There were moments where he could have leveled the game for Barcelona, but he did not take this moment. In fact, he skied them high. I don't know if it was nerves. I don't know if it was just being over anxious, over excited about the opportunity, but this is an avenue where I think Fermin Lopez has to develop. He needs to develop his accuracy in front of goal. I don't want a situation where we have to wait 1 in 5 shots for you to convert. No, it has to be 1 in 2 or 1 in 3 shots, and I think that he's very capable of getting that level of accuracy, because he did have some good opportunities today, but he did not take. This was the worst performance I've ever seen from Rafinha and Lamine Yamal all season long. Like, they were just totally non-existent in this game. They did not come to play. They just contributed nothing. If not just that they made up the first 11 for Barcelona, they did not contribute anything in attack. They did not contribute anything in defense. They were just there. And honestly, from a Rafinha point of view, I can understand why. Because Gerard Martin is a very solid defender, but he is a defensive-minded defender. Alejandro Balde is very good at taking the ball forward, which allows for a lot of combination plays. But that's not Gerard Martin. Gerard Martin don't do that. No. So the loss of Alejandro Balde, we're starting to see what that does for Barcelona in terms of build-up play, in terms of combination play on that right flank. Because listen, Gerard Martin doesn't do that, and I don't know what Hansi Flick and the Barcelona coaching staff need to conjure up to get Alejandro Balde's leg ready for 2 weeks, because he has to play that Copa del Rey finals against Real Madrid. There is no way that Gerard Martin is starting in that position, because he gives nothing going forward. So because he gave nothing going forward, we could not see enough of, in my opinion anyway, we could not see enough of Rafinha going forward. For Lamine Yamal, Koundé had his hands full. Like, Koundé's best game is when, you know, we're able to press so much that he has enough joy going forward. But Karim Adeyemi was having himself a game. So Koundé was busy. He was working for his life in the right back position. So that did not allow for a lot of combination plays going forward, in my opinion. And so we weren't able to see Lamine Yamal dazzle. And even Lamine Yamal is capable of dazzling on his own, but it just wasn't that kind of game for Barcelona. All in all, it was a very, very, very weird game. Barcelona conceded a second goal through a header, and honestly, I need Hansi Flick to, you know, work on this with the boys, because this is the second time we've seen this in as many games, conceding a headed goal. Yeah, no, we can't continue like this. It was not a very, very good defensive move. If anything, today that defense lacked Inigo Martinez's leadership. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. They lacked the presence of Inigo Martinez. Inigo Martinez has just built up his stature in that defense. He really marshals his back. Like, he really takes his role as the leader of that defense very serious. Like, he knows when they need to go forward. He knows when they need to drop back. He like really organizes the defense. Today you could see that without that sense of leadership in the back, it was all scattered. Everybody were doing their own thing. It just didn't come together the way it usually is, and that is why they considered 3 goals in this match. Now I have to talk about Araujo here, because Araujo is a very curious player to me. He did have a good game, but then he also did not, which is kind of weird to say that. And why do I say that? It's hard. Araujo had that moment where there was a Dortmund player that was running straight to Szczesny, and he had to run to cover a lot of yards to prevent the Dortmund player from putting in a cross into the Barcelona box, which, if everything went well, should have resulted in a goal, which would have brought them right back into the game. So he did really good there. However, he also assisted Guirassy with the 3rd goal. So Araujo, like, sometimes, like, Araujo has, I don't really know what to say. Like, Araujo is his performances is like, I don't know if I should say Araujo is not a big game player, because, like, at the same time, all I know is for sure is, if there was Araujo and there's Inigo Martinez, I'm going to pick Inigo Martinez, because I know that if Inigo Martinez was in that position that Araujo was, you know, during that 3rd goal, you could have kicked the ball anywhere else aside from kicking it directly to the opponent. Now, I have to recall everybody that last season, Gundogan openly criticized Araujo in the media, and at the time we were like, he was doing too much. But Araujo has made 2 critical mistakes, and today all's well that ends well, because Barcelona got the job done in the first half, and thanks to an own goal situation which was orchestrated by Fermin Lopez today, we were able to get that 1 goal buffer that we need to get over the line. But however, if this was a different situation, that mistake by Araujo in assisting Guirassy for the 3rd goal could have been deadly. Now, this is something that we don't want to keep going back and forth with, because we've had 2 seasons now where we're doing the same thing. Like, I would have thought that the mistake from last season would have been a lesson learned, maybe a learning opportunity for Araujo. Clearly not. Maybe there's still some growing left to be done. But yeah, today he had some moment where he was good, and some moment where he left me scratching my head like, what are you thinking, sir? Anyway, all of that to say, Dortmund did win Barcelona 3-1 on the day, but it is Barcelona who would advance to the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League on aggregate, having won Dortmund 5-3. This was a very disgraceful performance. It gives Hansi Flick a lot of things to think about, but at the very least they are in the semi-finals for the first time in a very, very long time. And now let's talk about the game between PSG and Aston Villa. And I said it last week that there was no way that I saw Aston Villa scoring 3 unanswered goals against PSG, and I was correct. Because when we started this match, when I started to watch this match and I saw how the way PSG came and attacked this match, I thought, look at that, they scored 2 goals right off the bat. And I thought, well, done and dusted, let me focus on Barcelona. We're busy fighting for our lives on that end. PSG have got this one secured. They're through to the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League. All is done and dusted. However, I want to applaud Aston Villa and Unai Emery. Unai Emery is a manager that knows how to play in Europe. He has won a lot in the Europa League, and he is showing us why he is at this level, at this pedigree. He knows how to win. However, they just fell short. They were just this close, like this close to making it to the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League, or at least to pushing PSG all the way to extra time. But on the day, it was not meant to be. They did win 3-2 today, but they lost on aggregates by a goal deficit. Now, when I looked at it, when I saw PSG go 2-goal up, I thought it was done, but I have to applaud their resilience for the way they were able to come back. They did not just score 2 goals, they scored a golazzo in the process, and they were on multiple occasions very, very, very close to making it a 4th, and even taking it all the way to extra time. But like I mentioned, it wasn't meant to be today, and I thought they did give a good report of themselves. If they do end up qualifying for the UEFA Champions League next season, they will be a team that most people will have to respect now, because we've seen what they can do at this level. A lot of teams did not respect them this year, but they proved them wrong. They proved that they're here to play. They've proved that they can hang with the big boys, and if you snooze on them, you definitely lose. But unfortunately, it is PSG's day. Personally, I would have loved them to win, only because I think PSG are one of the strongest team in that bracket at the moment. So if anybody can knock them out before getting to the finals, that would be great for me. Alright, you guys, welcome back to day 2 of the UEFA Champions League Quarter-Finals, where Arsenal have just qualified for the semi-finals after completing the generational beatdown of Real Madrid, and it is Inter Milan who joined them in the semi-finals after taking away Bayern Munich. And we need to talk about it, because leading up to this match, all we heard from all of the Real Madrid players was how much of a remontada this is going to be. And if you're not familiar with the term, a remontada is simply a Spanish word for comeback. Real Madrid are the comeback kings of Europe. They did it last season. They've been getting away with it in Europe for some reason. And it was just that ultimate belief that they were able to come back from any situation in their home, regardless of what happened. But this season, the Real Madrid of this season was not even the Real Madrid of last season. So I just never had that hope, though I still kept it back in the back of my mind to never discount this team. They do have the history of being able to come back. But ultimately, if I'm being honest with you, I thought that Real Madrid were not going to be able to come back on today's occasion. Real Madrid had the roofs closed to magnify the atmosphere, and I cannot even lie, within those first 10 minutes of the game, it was choking. But before we talk about all of that, let's look at the team that Ancelotti chose to field against Arsenal. We had Thibaut Courtois in goal, which is very good. Lucas Vázquez in that right back position, Raul Asensio in the middle of the park, partnering with Rudiger, and then David Alaba rounded out the defensive line for Real Madrid. And then we have Federico Valverde, Tchouaméni, and Bellingham in midfield duties, and for the front three, it was Rodrigo, Mbappe, and Vini Jr. Now, when they started this match, they started out with intensity because, of course, they had a game to chase. There was so much intensity within that first 20 minutes. I thought that things were going to happen, and I knew that the psychology of it was to barrage Arsenal to the point where they were able to score within the radar. Then you knew that the comeback was on, and honestly, within the first 1 minute, you know, there was that possibility that they could have done something. But that first half was so dramatic because the pendulum kept on swinging from Real Madrid to Arsenal, back to Real Madrid, and it was just a thing. Like, it was just crazy. The intensity was fast. It was very, very fast. But ultimately, it was Arsenal who it favored. Let's go back to what we saw in terms of that penalty. Okay, fine. Actually, that Arsenal penalty was very curious for me because it was a corner kick situation where it was so far back in the order of play. Like, they've already gone on to do other things, and it just had me thinking for a moment, like, what are we witnessing here? Because they pulled the play so far back to come and check it, and then they were able to see that Raul Asensio committed a foul during a corner kick. And I would say this was 2, maybe 3 plays ago, and it just raised up the question that I had all season long: is how far back is too far back for the VAR to check? Because I remember very correctly, whether that be in La Liga, where Barcelona was playing Atletico Madrid, and then Rodrigo de Paul had a handball in the build-up to the play for Alexander Sørloth's goal, and then all of the Barcelona players were shouting that no, there was a handball, the goal shouldn't count, but it was deemed too far back for it to be pulled back. But so for me to now be able to see them pull this goal or pull this play so far back, maybe two moves away a goal, and then to like bring it so far back to check it, I was kind of confused. But anywho, today I was rooting for Arsenal, so I was here for it. Bukayo Saka did not choose the right play on the day. He chose to do like a small dink, a Panenka penalty. It wasn't the right play. Thibaut Courtois is a huge man. If anybody was to be in a critical elimination game such as this one, I would have gone for power rather than finesse. But it didn't work out on that occasion. But no matter, it was always good that Arsenal was 3-0 up anywho, so you could afford those kind of little mistakes. When I say the pendulum kept on swinging left and right, because Mbappe was going to have himself in a pickle, or with Declan Rice, who he threw himself to the ground. It was not a foul. When I saw that Mbappe situation and how quick the referee was to give that as a foul, I was like, are we watching the same game? Because there is no way that you're giving this as a foul for Mbappe. And to be honest, VAR pulled it back, and this was the first time in a very long time that I have seen the referees give a very good call on a Real Madrid game, because normally we will see those given every day of the week. So I was kind of shocked when the play was overturned anyway. And that was much of the excitement that happened in the first half. Now in the second half, Arsenal began to step more into things, in my opinion. They looked better, they looked sharper, they looked like they came to play, and the more they kept on holding Real Madrid to a 0-0 scoreline, the more it looked better for them. From a Real Madrid perspective, I don't know what Rodrigo was doing in this game. He brought absolutely nothing to the game. There was some moments where Kylian Mbappe had himself a good run here and there, but ultimately, and that was much of that happened in the first half, but by the second half, I did not feel his impact at all. And the same can be said for Federico Valverde, in my opinion. I know he's the darling of the Real Madrid fan base, but today I did not feel his impact, and neither did I feel anything from Tchouaméni. In fact, if I was not reading the lineup right now, I probably wouldn't have realized he was even in the game, because he was that ineffective. The only person that I would say I kept on seeing efforts from was Jude Bellingham, who did try a little bit. He was out there in the media talking about this remontada, so he had to back it up with 1 or 2 plays, but don't get it wrong, don't get it twisted. I did not see a whole lot from him for me to be impressed by what I saw. It was just a whole lot of carrying on, in my opinion. Whereas from Arsenal, there was some moments I have to give credit to Declan Rice. Declan Rice has been, without a doubt, the man of both ties. Declan Rice was, he basically took it over in that first leg, and in the second leg, he was here for the defensive work, and not just the defensive work. He was just amazing. Everything that he did today was just top notch. His defensive performances were amazing, and I love this player today. Listen, I don't follow Arsenal all that well, but like today, they were Declan Rice, the man that you were. In my opinion, he was absolutely top. Another player that I love to see in this game was Martin Odegaard. He was coming back to Real Madrid. If you remember, he's a Real Madrid man. He did not get the best reception, but it was so good to see that the atmosphere did not get to him. There was opportunities where he was doing a few things. I thought that he could have been on the score sheet, honestly, in my opinion, but it was not meant to be on today's occasion. No matter, no worries. It did not matter, but I have to give credit to Bukayo Saka. He was looking for that dink all night long, and he finally got it when he scored to put Arsenal, 1-0 up against Real Madrid. And that is where we need to spend a little bit more talking about Arsenal's build-up play. They looked free, they looked flowing, they looked amazing. The way they were able to, the way they walked the ball, Bukayo Saka traps the ball, puts it back in the middle, the way they were able to splice open that Real Madrid defense and it was so very well timed, and find Bukayo Saka one-on-one with Thibaut Courtois, and he finally got an opportunity to get his dink. It was chef's kiss. And if you're a football head, that's the kind of goal you would want to score. That is like a pure tiki-taka kind of goal. It's pure Pep Guardiola Barcelona kind of goal. Absolute kind of goal. But then immediately after the restart, Arsenal made a very big blunder. They gave away the ball very cheaply in front of goal, and immediately Vinicius Jr., whom I have not felt his impact all night long, he got them back on the score sheet. Ultimately, it did end 2-1 in favor of Arsenal when, of course, another defense splicing pass was going to get to Gabriel Martinelli, and he just ran with the ball, and there was no way that Fran Garcia was going to catch him, and he had so much time and space to place his ball well beyond Thibaut Courtois. And it is Arsenal who are heading to the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League. And let's not be delusional. You would recall that I did not think that the way Real Madrid made it to this quarterfinals was ideal. I thought that situation with Atletico Madrid, it did not make sense to me, and I still think so till this day. So I'm quite happy that all is well that ends well, because I feel like it's justice, in my opinion. You might disagree with me, but this is my opinion. I just feel it's justice for Atletico Madrid. A lot of Atletico Madrid fans are going to sleep better tonight, I want to believe. But also, I want to also look at it in the sense that Real Madrid are not a good team this season. Let's not even lie. They really need to go back to the drawing board. They really need to figure some things out in the way the team is balancing out. It just didn't work. Outside of that first 20 minutes of this game, there was never a time when I felt like Arsenal were in any real danger of conceding, because I felt like they were a bit too conservative. And this is what happens when you come against a very, very good opposition, right? This is what happens. And I felt like this about the Real Madrid teams of past, the Real Madrid teams that went on back-to-back, to win the UEFA Champions League last season and the season before. I felt they were not a very good team, but somehow they kept on doing it and winning. So it just didn't make sense where you keep on saying that there's something not quite there with this team. But this season, we can clearly see that something is not right. The way the team is set up, they're not quite balanced. And this is something for Papa Perez and Ancelotti to think about, if Ancelotti still has a job after today. I heard there were some rumors floating around that Ancelotti's job is dependent on his ability to win this game and make a remontada against Arsenal. That has not happened, so most likely there might be a change coming soon at the helm of the Real Madrid's squad. So who knows these things? I don't know, but we have to wait and see. But if it does end up being that Ancelotti is the man at the end of the day, there's a lot of tinkering to do with this Real Madrid team. There's some players that should not start for Real Madrid at all. There's some players that, I don't know. I don't think that you can afford to have two luxury players in your team, but what do I know? That was it from the Real Madrid game today. It was, I'm not going to lie, it was not a good game from them, but it was a really well done game from Arsenal. Arsenal deserve to go through to the UEFA Champions League Semi-Finals, and they will meet with PSG in the semi-finals. Now, looking on to the game between Inter Milan and Bayern Munich. When that game ended last week, immediately the game ended and Inter Milan won 2-1. I said Inter Milan were in the semi-finals, and only because I felt like Bayern Munich were going to have a harder time breaking down Inter Milan in their home at the San Siro, especially as Bayern Munich has lost at home. Had it been that Bayern Munich had something to had it been that Bayern Munich had something to protect in this match versus Inter Milan, they would have had themselves a different chance. But let's not forget that Bayern Munich are themselves carrying a few injuries. The teams that they had right now is not the team that they would like. So I did not see a possibility where Bayern Munich were going to be able to come back against Inter Milan. I said it then, and it's exactly what happened. The game has ended 2-2 between Inter Milan and Bayern Munich, and honestly it was a very worthy performance from both teams. They did put on a very good display for the fans, but ultimately at the San Siro, within that Italian fortress, it was just too much to ask. If anything, I should say that Bayern Munich would be lucky to get away to say, oh, it wasn't a very disgraceful performance for Bayern Munich as it is against Real Madrid, because the aggregate between Real Madrid and Arsenal is like 5-1, whereas the aggregate between Bayern Munich and Inter Milan is like 4-3. So it's like not really disgraceful, but all the same, it's still a crash out if you want to really be honest. So like whether disgraceful or not disgraceful, a crash out is a crash out, you know. But yeah, the game, Harry Kane got us started with a very good goal in the 50-something minute, and not soon after that Inter Milan responded with two very good goals of their own, and then Bayern Munich ended up coming back very late on. There was much opportunities going back and forth for both teams, but ultimately, like I said, I just never saw a room where Bayern Munich went through. It's Inter Milan's day. The atmosphere was amazing. As a Barcelona fan, I cannot tell you if I am excited about this or if I am not. Everybody has been saying that Inter Milan are a very good team, and they really are. They're sitting number one at the Serie A at the moment, and they have just knocked away one of the top teams in Europe at the moment. So, and Barcelona, that game against Dortmund yesterday probably was not the best showing that they could have done for themselves, but all the same, I'm looking forward to this game. This is the first time that Barcelona has been in the semi-finals in 6 years, so to play Inter Milan, this is quite going to be some elite football that we are going to watch. Who do I think is going to win that match? I don't know yet, but we have to stay and watch out. I'm sure Hansi Flick is on the case and he's got it all figured out. But for now, let me know which of these games you enjoyed the most. Let me know what moments stood out to you. Let me know if you think I got my analysis right as well. I'm always trying to improve this thing. And if you enjoyed this match reviews, please, of course, like, subscribe, share, and let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye guys.